Okay, we're live.
Oh, we're live. Oh, excellent. Welcome to Shiny Side Out with
Dave?
and Mackie. We're coming to you live from the Sydney studios, somewhat dislocated from you, and we form one piece of the puzzle on Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com. You can join us on the air by joining us in the chat room, and please do that. You can follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook to get updates between our shows. And you can check out our website for up-to-date guest information and guest bios, also previous show notes. The call-in number in the United States is 347 688 2902. Dave, how have you been?
I think we've had a better week, but
Yes.
what are you going to
What you gonna do? Yeah, there's not much. So just wanted to say as well that we just had an awesome show preceding us. I thought a great conversation happening there on the round table.
do?
So
Wasn't it what?
it was great stuff, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Good information as well. So Dave, and we are breaking our cycle today a little. We took you guys.
Are you okay, Mickey?
Sorry, I'm okay. Yeah, I just had a technical glitch. Let me just fix it. Sorry, we're breaking our cycle today, which essentially means that we are going to bring you, instead of ESP and all those phenomena, a topical show which will be based or largely based on 2012 and specifically December 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And we think it's necessary that we have this show at this point because there's roughly 100 days left.
It's 3 months exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It is, isn't it? 21st, absolutely. So, yeah, Dave and I thought it would be important to bring a 2012 show well before it happens. And we're going to look at a little bit what it really is about. I mean, what is happening, what is meant to happen, and why is everybody in such an uproar? So, we're going to look at the Mayan calendar, what it actually means, the long count, a bit of a history, some explanations. Dave compiled a massive list of things that could go wrong, and we're going to spend some time on that. We've got a couple of topical news items as well. I think you guys will enjoy. So yeah, so today we're talking about 2012 in relation to the end of the Mayan calendar. It's not really an end though; it's just the end of a cycle. Dave, before we do that though, what else has happened in your life?
What else has happened in my life? Oh, I just realized it isn't 3 months, it's 2 months.
Because we're in October, right? Not September.
Exactly. So we were talking about this. We do talk about this. We have production meetings, but how professional are we?
Most professional.
Yes. Yeah. So, if professional is the center of the universe, we're at the place most farthest from. That's my Star Wars quote for the day. Um, Look, we realized I've watched a bunch of videos and surfed the net as much as I could to try and get some data on it. And what we're going to do is say, you know what, this is what we know to this date. That's what we're going to be doing today, really, isn't it?
Essentially, right? And there's a few interesting tidbits. Again, we will not give you a final answer like we normally don't. But certainly there's a lot of food for thought. There's a lot of food for thought. A lot of misconceptions, I think, as well, and a lot of unnecessary panic in my mind. So, yeah,
Look, just drive us straight into the Mayan calendar.
can do.
Now, the reason why I say this, it's because everybody says 21st of December 2012.
Yeah,
Everybody. You mention 2012 to someone, and they'll say, "Oh, it's the Mayan calendar thing. That date. When is it again? It's the 21st of December, isn't it?"
correct.
Yeah, everyone around the world does it.
Yeah. Now, it is also related to the winter solstice of the northern hemisphere, which is around that time. But guys, this is the thing, and Dave and I always like to take the approach of knowledge and information distribution, right? We will give you a whole bunch of stuff that you can mull over yourself, which is all fact based. Okay, so we're gonna start out with talking about the Mayan calendar. Okay, the Mayan calendar consists of several cycles or counts of different lengths. That's important to notice. And in fact, they used three separate calendars. There's the long count, which is the one we're going to focus on, and that was principally used for historical purposes. So, because it can pretty much define any date for millennia in the past and the future, in fact, for millions of years. So these Mayans, they were very far looking and back and forth. So this can be used for a whole bunch of different things. The other calendar was a civil calendar, and it was based on a year of roughly 360 days, which consisted of 18 periods of 20 days. So they had like 18 months that were 20 days long each. Now, that was called the Ha'ab. So Haab. There was also something called the Tzolkin calendar, and that was used for ceremonial purposes, which had 20 periods of 13 days. Okay, and that calendar obviously had a rough duration of 260 days. Now, some people believe that it may be linked to the orbit of Venus, which happens to have a period of 263 days around the sun. That may be so. Now, the Tzolkin combined with the Ha'ab formed a synchronized cycle lasting for 52 Ha'ab, and that was called the calendar round. And interestingly enough, the calendar round is still in use by many groups in the Guatemalan highlands, which is where the Himalayans, the Mayans are from. So that's Mesoamerica. That's the piece of land between North and South America, really. That's where the Mayans are from, Mesoamerica or Middle America. Now, the long count goes back to a starting point that was basically mythological in nature. Okay, so it was put back to the beginning of this particular cycle as far as the Mayans were concerned. I'm going to go into that in a second. Interestingly, the Mayan numerical system was essentially Viji or Vigesimal, which means it had a base 20. So we got decimal, which is a base 10. Interestingly, the Babylonians had a base 12, if you recall. So quite different from the Mayan system. And each unit of a given position represented 20 times the unit of the position which preceded it.
Okay, now in English.
Okay, so, and I'm going to go through this in detail. There was something called, and it's got a huge table here which I'm going to put in. There's something called a kin, K-I-N, and 20 of those, 20 kin made a winal. And one winal, right, was there for 20 days. So 18 winals, which is roughly 20, made one tun. And 20 tun made one katun. And we are already at 7,200 days here. And 20 katun made one baktun. And those are the ones we can concentrate on. And that's roughly 394 solar years. And 20 baktun made one pictun. 20 pictun made one kalabatun. 20 kalabatun made one ki'ichintun. And 20 ki'ichintun made one alautun. And one alautun was 63 million years long. So those guys really could count. Now, don't worry if you didn't keep up with all of that. That's going to be in the show notes. And
it'll be in the exam at the end of the show.
That's right. So essentially it's a base 10. So each unit, whatever it is, whatever you called it, the next unit would be made up of 20 of the preceding units. So one day would turn to 20, and then 20 of those units would make up. So you come very quickly 400, and so forth. So 120, 400, and so on and so forth. If you take a day as your base. An important exception was made for the second order place value, which instead represented 18 times 20. And I just mentioned that. Okay, which was the tun, which is 18 winals rather than 20 winals. And more closely approximated the solar year. The reason it was done because it more closely approximated the solar year of 360 days, because 18 times 20 is 360, whereas 20 times 20 is 400. So obviously they took the solar account there, or the solar year into account there as well. Now, it should be noted, however, that the cycles of the long count are independent of the solar year. Okay, so these are really just day counts. Now, since calendar round dates repeat every 8,980 days, approximately 52 solar years, the cycle repeats roughly once in each lifetime. So a more refined method of dating was needed, if history was to be recorded accurately. To specify dates over periods longer than 52 years, Mesoamericans, like we mentioned earlier, used the long count calendar. I've just gone through a couple of things. So the Mayan name for a day was kin, which you cast your mind back 20 seconds. That was the basic, single count for a day. 20 of these skeins are known to be venal or venal, and 18 venals make one tune, as we said, and so on and so forth. According to the correlation between the long count and Western calendars, which are today accepted of Mayan researchers, and it's actually known as the Goodman-Martinez-Thompson or GMT correlation, not to be confused with Greenwich Median Time. This starting point is equivalent to the long count calendar date identifying the Mayan creation date and counting the number of days from that date, which was 4 Aha, 8 Kumku, and that actually translates to August 11, 3114 BC in the Gregorian calendar, which we're using today, or September 6 in the old Julian calendar. So essentially, the cycle we're in right now started in 3114 BC. The GMT correlation was chosen back in 1935 by John Eric Sidney Thompson on the basis of early correlations that were carried out by Joseph Goodman in 1905 and Juan Martinez in 1926. And they all came up with slightly different dates. So Goodman came up with August 11, Martinez had August 12, and then Thompson in 1927 came up with August 13. So I guess they stuck with the August 11. Now, by its linear nature, the long count was capable of being extended to refer to any date far into the past or the future. The calendar involved, or this calendar rather, involved the use of a position notation system in which each position signified an increasing multiple of the number of days. So the way they wrote it down, these are actually all petroglyphs. So they chiseled that into stone. So in each notation would be an increase in multiples. So it's a magnitudinal increase there. There are 4 rarely used higher cycle or higher order cycles as well, which are the Pic tune, the Kalab tune, the Kinchil tune, and the Alao tune, and that goes back into the 63 million year range. Since the long count dates are unambiguous, the long count was particularly well suited to use on monuments. The monumental inscriptions would not only include the 5 digits of the long count, but would also include the 2 Tzolk'in characters followed by the 2 Harp characters. So you had the long count character, the shorter count characters, and then also the ones that were used in the ceremony, which gives you pretty good date range for these monuments. Now, interestingly, this is what I dug up. Apparent interpretation of the Mesoamerican long count calendar is the basis for popular belief that a cataclysm will take place on December 21, 2012. Now, and this is true, guys, so what I'm telling you is a fact. December 21, 2012 is simply the day that the calendar will go to the next Baktun. We spoke about that. The Baktun is the cycle we're in currently. Or it's the name of a cycle. It's coming to the end of one. At long count 13.0.0.0. The date on which the calendar will go to the next Pictune, a complete series of 20 Pictunes, at long count 1.0.0.0.0.0 will be October 13, 4772. Okay. Now, it is important that the Mayans did not speak of an end of time. They had a cyclical understanding of time, similarly to what is held in the East and certainly by Hindus in India and so forth. So while they had the long count, which was a linear correlation, the long count counted cyclical events though. Okay, so each cycle made up the next cycle, and as the cycle comes to an end, the next cycle begins. This is really important. For instance, Sandra Noble, who is the executive director of the Mesoamerican Research Organization, the FAMSI, notes that for the ancient Maya, it was a huge celebration to make it to the end of a whole cycle. She considers the portrayal of December 2012 as a doomsday or cosmic shift event to be a huge fabrication and the chance for a lot of people to cash in. Now, I actually happen to disagree with that particular statement, but...
Why is that?
Because the Mayans are very clear, and I'm going to go into that in some detail there as well, that we have survived 3 previous world ages. So this is the 4th, and that comes from the, almost the single remaining, or there are a couple remaining works of Mayan literature, and this particular one is called the Popol Vuh. And in there it says that the last world, interestingly enough, was destroyed by water. And we are apparently living in an age that will be destroyed by fire.
Mm-hmm.
got some interesting information on that there as well coming up. I've got a little aside for you, which is just a little interesting aside before we go and find out what all the... Hey, take us through the aside underneath the table of Bucktoons and Vinals and Toons.
Yeah. Okay, see, what we've got is that there's many Maya long count inscriptions, and I know they've just chipped away and found another centerpiece for the Mayan calendar. But so there's many Mayan long count inscriptions which contain supplementary series, which provides information on the lunar phase. Also the number of current lunation in a series of 6, and which of the 9 Lords of the Night rules. Also, there's a 584-day Venus cycle was also maintained. You already also mentioned that before, Meki, about the Venus cycle, which tracked the helical risings of Venus and the morning and evening stars. Many events in this cycle were seen as being astrological, inauspicious, and baleful. Was that baleful or baleful? Baleful. And occasionally, warfare was astrologically timed to coincide with the stages in this cycle. I'll post a link for that. But this is... I've seen the best description of the calendar having 3 cogs. The inside cog is the small one, that's the 20 days, the next one, and then the large one. And they all 0 point at one point, and I've seen an example where they throw the date of the year, our calendar year, next to it, and just run it. And when they all become aligned again is on the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere this year. So I've heard a lot of the things in and out of this also. Debunkers trying to say that the calendar is wrong, we got the wrong dates, we messed up in the middle centuries, and well, that's actually not so true, because they've counted forward from the time and backwards from the time against the other things that it plots in the sky, and it doesn't appear to be incorrect. It does look like we're looking at the right year, with the lunar phases and the eclipses and everything, which are all planned and plotted out. So,
correct, Dave. That's 100% correct. And in fact, some people say, we're still looking at the Julian calendar, and you don't allow for the Gregorian shift. No, not true. It's been allowed for, and like Dave points out, the latest correlation, which is the GMT correlation, which we mentioned, comes into a date range of either August 11, August 12, or August 13 for the start date. Okay, we're back in 3114 BC. So you're 100% correct, Dave. People have spent a lot of time on trying to get this right. So I think what you just said is absolutely correct. And so we seem to have the right year, 2012.
I love that. We seem to have the right year.
And
such certainty.
You never be too certain, otherwise you start out, right? Because I have the answer for you. Well, we've only got questions for you guys, but we hope to provide a few of the answers. So and it's 2012. So I remember back in pre-2000 days, Dave, if I cast my mind back that far, that I was really disappointed that with the 2012 date, because everybody was focused on the millennium, right?
Yeah.
1999 and 2000, Nostradamus, then nothing happened. Well, a couple of computers, I think, with the Y2K bug froze in Africa, as far as I know.
The only reason nothing happened on the Y2K date is because IT people all around the world did the job to stop the world from coming to an end electrically. Thank us, right?
Involved in the rectification of that code, believe it or not, it was a real problem. So let's not say it wasn't, but there were money was spent in fixing it. So
I'm sorry, I'm still laughing. I just think it's funny. Everyone goes, "Well, nothing happened." You go, "Well, actually, no, it did in the labs when we did the date."
it would have been horrendous if it had. Right, so what's this, Dave? What is all the fuss about? That's what the fuss is about. The fuss is about this. The December 2012 marks the conclusion of the current Baktun, a time period in the Mesoamerican long count calendar which was used in Central America prior to arrival of the Europeans. There was civilization there, believe it or not. And although the long count was most likely invented by the Olmecs, it has become closely associated with Maya civilization, whose classic period from roughly 2900 AD. So, about 1,000 years ago, a little bit longer. Now, the Olmecs are very interesting in their own right. They're the guys that, for some reason, placed these massive stone balls everywhere and also carved these African-looking faces and then also put them somewhere in the landscape. Massive boulders that weigh tons and tons. And we have no purpose or represent, but you can look at them. The Olmec heads certainly have some African features to them. Again, so we will talk about the Olmecs in some other state today. The writing system of Maya has been substantially deciphered, meaning that a large corpus of their written inscribed material has survived from before the European conquest. The interesting thing is this: the Europeans, they burned and destroyed whatever they could in a mad rush to almost obliterate this culture until a bishop, his name escapes me, put a halt to it and tried to gather. In fact, he was one of the destroyers initially, but then he must have had maybe like a moment, like Paulus on the road to Damascus, where he realized, oh hell, I should not do this. I should not destroy all of this, and he then spent the rest of his life trying to save what he could. And the Popol Vuh and some other works, the Masnaam, are among the things he tried to save. And certainly the stone inscriptions have survived, and the Mayan temples, houses, and monuments have a lot of inscriptions. So we've made a lot of headway in deciphering all of this. Now, unlike the 52-year calendar round, which we mentioned earlier, still used today among the Maya, the long count was linear rather than cyclical. Now, I disagree with that. Yes, it was linear, but it was measuring cycles. So you tell me. It's semantics at this point, I guess. If your linear count is measuring a cycle, then as far as I'm concerned, that's a cycle too. And the timekeeping was kept roughly in units of 20, as we mentioned as well. Now, there's a strong tradition of world ages in Mayan literature, but the record has been distorted, leaving several possibilities open to interpretation. Now, when we say the record has been distorted, what we're really saying here is a lot of the record has been destroyed by the conquering Spanish. According to the Popol Vuh, and I mentioned that one earlier, a compilation of the creation accounts of the Quiche Maya of the colonial era highlands, which is, again, Mesoamerica, we are living in the fourth world, and I think I mentioned that earlier as well. The Popol Vuh describes the gods first creating 3 failed worlds, followed by a successful fourth world in which humanity was placed. Not entirely correct, because humanity was present in all of the preceding 3 worlds as well. In the Maya long count, the previous world ended after 13 Baktuns, or roughly 5,125 years, which puts us to August 11, 3,114 BC in the Gregorian calendar. Which means that the fourth world, our world, and this is what the fuss is all about, will also have reached the end of its 13th Baktun, or Mayan date 13.0.0.0.0 on December 21, 2012.
Hey, wait, that's coming up.
Up in a couple of months, in fact, Dave.
To be precise.
Coincidence. See, that's really the of why we are all talking about December 2012. Because the previous world, according to legend, or what the Popol Vuh tells us, ended after 13 Baktuns, or 5,125 years, and the present one, if it also lasts for 13 Baktuns, will come to an end in 2 months' time. That's only the end of the cycle, not the end of the world necessarily. Popol Vuh says we can look forward to destruction by fire. In 1957, Mayan, I guess
He was a Mayanist?
he was a big Mayans. Astronomer Mort Worcester Macomb that of 13 Baktuns would have been of the utmost significance to the Maya. Absolutely. You know, it's probably like a millennium celebration for us today, or more significant even. In 1966, Michael D. Coe wrote in The Maya, his book The Maya, that there's a suggestion that Armageddon would overtake the degenerate peoples of the world and all creation on the final days of the 13th Baktun. Thus, our present universe would be annihilated December 2012, when the great cycle of the long count reaches completion. Now, there are again a number of issues that I have with that. It's the end of a cycle, not the end of the world. There may be some destruction taking place, certainly, but I do not believe that the universe or the world will blow up. I don't think that life will come to an end. Changes, yes, certainly, and I don't know what form they could take. In fact, we'll talk about what possibly could go wrong in a little while, I think in the second part of the show.
The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yes. For you young kids out there, that was a reference to Ghostbusters, but it's all good. Now, bear in mind though that the Hindu also counted in world ages. They called them the yugas, and they also spoke about. In fact, there's more than 4 in their mythology. There's a lot more. And they're all. And it's sort of a devolution. So you're going from a golden age down to our age, which is like an iron age, an age of destruction and warfare. And I don't think that's stretching it too far if you look outside or just turn on TV and watch the news. So, and another thing is that nature also moves in cycles. And I think a lot of the ancient peoples were a lot more aware of that than we are today. So I just want to make the point that the Mayan calendar does not predict the end of the world. It predicts not predict, it stipulates the end of a cycle. Okay, right, now we have more strangeness for you.
Here we go.
Place December 2012, Way is location, dark rift in the Milky Way, which was called by the Mayans the Xibalba Bay, and that translated means the road to the underworld. Now, Xibalba Bay roughly translates to as place of fear, and as I said, is the name of the underworld in Mayan mythology. Ruled by the Maya death gods and their helpers. In 16th century Verapaz, the entrance to Xibalba was traditionally held to be a cave in the vicinity of Coban, again, Mesoamerica, in Guatemala. According to some of the Quiche Maya presently living in the vicinity, the area is still associated with death. Cave systems in nearby Belize have also been referred to as the entrance to Xibalba. However, another physical incarnation of the road to Xibalba, as viewed by the Quiche, is the dark rift which is visible in the Milky Way. Now, if you have a chance of looking at a picture or a presentation of the Milky Way, there is a dark rift that runs through it. And this is interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm happy to take all the hate mail I can take, and Dave, I'm sure, is as well. On the winter solstice of 2012, apparently, the noonday sun exactly conjuncts the crossing point of the sun's ecliptic with the galactic plane, which also closely while also closely conjuncting the exact center of the galaxy. Okay, you with me so far? Now, did you ever notice that the Milky Way galaxy tilts? It's not like in a straight line. And did you ever wonder why that is? Well,
the funny thing is, I expect that when you look up, it should match the solar plane, our solar system's plane. I always imagined there was. What's the reason behind that?
That's the thing. It should be, all plane of ecliptic should be lining up, but they don't. So apparently, again, happy to be corrected here, but I couldn't find any information to the contrary. It turns out that our solar system appears to belong to another galaxy altogether. Okay, and that galaxy is colliding with the Milky Way. This was recently discovered when scientists were trying to figure sources for dark matter that would account for forces we can measure but not see visibly. We've spoken about this as well. Using near-infrared, which are wavelengths outside the light that we can see, a huge sister galaxy circling the Milky Way was discovered. It's called the Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy. You can look that up for yourself, and SGR for short, Sagittarius Dwarf Galaxy. Now, for those keen on the 2012 date, which is all of us because we're listening to this show, this is the reason our entry point to the Rift center heart of the Milky Way is through just Sagittarius. Okay, so it's actually through Sagittarius that we enter that galaxy. The two collide at that point. This explains why our solar system is at an angle to the plane of the galaxy, and also why we dip above and below that center line every 13,000 years or so. You probably have heard about that cycle, right? It's actually 25,300, but don't nail me down on that. There's more strangeness, and I will lay that on you right now. Moonshots from the 1960s revealed glass in the moon. I think we mentioned this in the previous show. Now, the glass is made from intense bursts of heat on sand. We know that. That's a fact. The event happened within the last 30,000 years. Okay. Ancient petrographs of the primitive peoples of the world. Now, petrographs is carving in stone. From that era, about 12,000 years ago or so, show the sun causing extreme energy bursts, changing that. Well, not necessarily changing the Earth's atmosphere, but certainly there are representations of the sun almost having coronal emissions or discharges. We've added some pictures of those petroglyphs to the show notes, so you can have a look yourself. Now, interestingly enough, that is something that was captured at that time. The next clue is that the current, and again, this has been verified independently by Dave as well, the current 11-year sunspot cycle has passed the minimum. The sunspot activity should have begun over a year ago and has not for the first time ever. Okay, so it's very low. This appears to be caused by a gravitation field influencing the sun. Well, what field could be big enough to influence the sun? It appears that the only field large enough would be from the center of the galaxy. Remember, there's meant to be this monster black hole at the center of the galaxy that has a huge gravitational pull. So what does this all mean? It's all gibberish anyway, as far as I'm concerned. Putting it all together, it implies that the 2011 to 2012 event could be a natural cycle of solar maximum bursts, which could scorch all or parts of the Earth. Okay, so you're with me there? What I've just all explained could be a natural cycle that we're just moving through, and maybe the Mayans captured that cycle in their Baktun long count. Maybe they, were onto something.
Maybe that's why they count it.
In fact, they're not the only ones that do it worldwide. I mean, there was always a fascination in every global culture with astrology and astronomy, and the movement of the stars and potential good or bad omens that arose from that. So how is the world preparing for this? And you can look this up for yourself if you want. Russia is building a huge underground city to hold 60,000.
Hang on, whoop, tinfoil hat time.
Oh, sorry. No, well, it is tinfoil hat time, but this is actually happening. Not saying necessarily it's happening because we want to protect ourselves from the fallout of 2012, but the Russians are building this huge underground city that can hold 60,000 people. It's called the Yamantau Mountain Complex, and we've put a little map into our show notes there for you. It's actually quite far into Siberia. It is just north of Kazakhstan, in what was formerly the Soviet Union, which is now Russia. Norway has already built enough facilities for the entire population to go underground.
No way.
What we're going to do is we're going to move to Norway. That's what we're
Yeah, live from the Norway studios underground.
Right, buddy. And Sweden, this is interesting because we spoke about this one as well. Sweden is working with NATO to create an underground seed bank.
I'm just going to let you know that that's already been sealed.
Correct, and this is really just like a modern day's Noah's Ark, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, and for you guys out in the SFA, apparently, again, you can verify this for yourself. I found it interesting. The Bush family has made one of the largest land purchases in history for their own personal private compound in Paraguay, the only inland nation of South America. And I guess the rest of us can fend for ourselves.
Woohoo!
Now, this goes hand in hand with a lot of the other stuff Dave and I have been. Dave, just give us a bit of a rundown on the underground bases that are being built in the States.
Yeah. Well, I want to cover that as I'll run through the definition, right? So, an underground base or a deep underground military base, or otherwise known as DUMB, DUMB or DUMBS, as in plural, DUMBs. Sorry?
Dums and Dumser.
Yeah, I love it. The most well-known would be the one under Denver Airport. Clearly, as far as all my research is concerned. The Phil Schneider one that was being built in Groom Lake, Area 51, if you don't know where that is. And they happen to be everywhere. Now, in my research, I was able to uncover the possibility only, no proof, that there is an underground military base also here in the middle of Australia, at Pine Gap, and in other places. But the military bases themselves, in particular the Denver Airport facility, there's a lot of stuff to do with Denver Airport, and it's a whole show on its own, but something really weird happened where all of the head offices of all of the agencies of the US, CSA, NSA, CIA, FBI, blah, 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 you name them, they all were moved to Denver. And all the people complained saying, why am I going there? There's nothing there. We don't even have a building. Oh, yeah, we do. But I'm looking at Google Earth right now, there's nothing there. What address? What's the address? Well, the airport. No, I'm not going to work out of an airport. Like, how silly is that? We've got currently the most secure building in Washington or whatever it is, wherever they were. And no, they all had their mail forwarded to this new location. And the recent national emergency test broadcast that was done in September of last year around the meteors near Pass, and we all are familiar with that one. Obama flew in and disappeared, didn't exit the airport, and was able to be in his stronghold beneath the airport. Now, and that's not to say that we should go there and expect to be let in. Unlikely with every one of the bases. I reckon just stay away. That's my advice. Don't go anywhere near them because they're going to shoot you. If you look like you're going to be threatening that you get in, they'll just shoot you. It's just like Area 51. Don't go near it. Anyway, so the underground military bases, and I've seen them on Google Earth as well in China, underground airports, the actual aircraft facilities like an aircraft carrier. All the planes are stored underground. There's nothing on tarmac. So it's pretty cool. The other thing just to connect them together, there's an underground high-speed rail network, probably maglev or something, and people where there isn't any base have complained about this crunching sound that's heard 24/7, like a rumbling, crunching in the ground.
If that did you when we researched this? Sorry, you just
I hit something, didn't I?
Struck my memory. You sure did. And there have been these really strange sounds recently all over the world. Sort of some are like metallic stress sounds, others are crunch sounds, and nobody knows where they come from or what they mean. So you know what? Maybe some of those sounds are your government digging under your feet. To make.
Yep. To make a point with this, we were building a simple tunnel as like a freeway underground. And this was in Lane Cove, or they aptly named it Lane Cave because the tunnel caved in. It's very funny. During the construction of that, before the construction, the residents said it can't be done at night time because of what we've understood to be the case with large tunneling machines causing, this grinding sound. And they agreed not to do it. They, said after 7:30 at night, we're going to stop the machines, we'll turn them back on again, and it's all good.
Hmm.
All right? Those sounds are being heard in parts of the US where there isn't a military base. There is no mining. There's nothing. And it's not stress because there's no geoactivity there. So there must be tunneling machines going under there to connect to these underground military bases, the unknown ones, like Area 51 is a secret base. No, it's not. You can see it. It's there. And just this week, I think the film crew tried to go in the back gate, and they were asked to lie face down on the dirt for 2 hours until local law enforcement took them away. And they filmed the whole lot. It's awesome. There's a show coming up on it. Um, I just have to say that there wouldn't be this level of activity, underground activity, if there wasn't something going on. Now, I can always explain military as being, oh, we're just paranoid. We want to keep all of our stuff safe and underground. Right? That's the easiest explanation away of it. But the hard one for me is the seed vault. I cannot get it through my head how you could pass that with any government or the UN or NATO or whoever it is. How could you get NATO to spend, $1 billion on collecting seeds from around the world? And what plausible reason would they say, yeah, that's fair enough, we better do that?
Hmm. Absolutely.
How can you get like $100,000 out of your friends each to go and do something?
Yeah.
Right? It's going to have to mean that you need to do it. Not, oh, wouldn't it be a lovely little holiday destination underground there? There's no purpose other than something's going to happen.
And this is the thing, guys. When you ask these questions, especially official government bodies, they will tell you, look, no, we're just doing it because we can, and there's nothing wrong. In fact, as Dave and I were researching today's show, 2012, we came across a page by NASA dedicated to 2012. It's called Frequently Asked Questions, 2012, Beginning of the End, or Why the World Won't End. So let's give you an example. I'll let you read it for yourselves. I've just posted it into the chat, and it's going to be part of the show notes. But question: are there any threats to the Earth in 2012? Many internet websites say the world will end in December 2012. Answer: nothing bad will happen to the Earth in 2012. Our planet has been getting along just fine for more than 4 billion years. Incredible scientists worldwide know of no threat associated with 2012. Now that's NASA's answer. Okay. There's one I agree with. Does the Mayan calendar end in 2012? No, it does not. Just as our calendar in the kitchen doesn't cease to exist after December 31st, neither does the Mayan calendar. Agreed, it's just the end of a count. Could phenomena occur where planets align in a way that impacts Earth? There are no planetary alignments in the next few decades. Earth will not cross the galactic plane. Alignments will not occur. And the effects on the Earth, even if they were to occur, would be negligible. Each December, the Earth and the Sun align with the approximate center of the Milky Way galaxy, but that is an annual event of no consequence. Is there a planet or brown dwarf called Nibiru, or Planet X, or Eris, that is approaching the Earth and threatening our planet with widespread destruction? Nibiru and other stories, that's the answer, about wayward planets are an internet hoax. There's no factual basis for these claims. If Nibiru or Planet X were real and headed for an encounter with the Earth in 2012, astronomers would have been tracking it for at least the past decade. And it would be visible by now to the naked eye. Obviously, it does not exist.
I like what they're able to do is, say, collide with Earth and get away with it.
I know. And so these are just some of the things. And I do urge you to have a look yourself. As I said, it's in the chat. It'll be in the show notes. Have a look at the site. I think it's funny, and I think it's a little simplistic in the way NASA answers it. And I guess it's for the broader population. But there's a lot more there. However, it was important enough, and this is really the point of this.
Mm-hmm.
important enough for NASA to put up a page of FAQs for 2012. It's when the oxygen mask drops from the ceiling in the plane as you're about to crash, and you put it on. And if you've seen Fight Club or read the book, you know it's not really going to help you any. It's just going to make you feel like pretty okay. You know, it's like a little natural high to get that oxygen. So as you're crashing down into the earth, you're smiling because
Well, I'm gonna add one to this. If you're in a plane and the oxygen masks drop, put it on, right? Because you may be conscious long enough to hear the pilot say simply, "We're having a few technical difficulties. We'll be landing at your destination in half an hour or so," right? They won't say, "We're about to stack vertically at 500 miles an hour into the ground, so begin coitus with the person next to you."
and make peace with your gods.
They're not going to say that, right? Even if it was true.
See, Dave, and I know where you're going with this, and you're 100% correct. So if something were to happen here on our Earth, on our planet, within the next, I don't know, even next 5 years, next 10 years, there would be no way that anybody would tell you because social order would cease to exist. A lot of science fiction books have been written about this. A lot of movies have been made about this. The most recent one, Seeking a Friend for the End of the World.
Oh, I still haven't seen it. Is it out yet?
Yeah, it is. It is. I've seen a couple shorts of from it, and I'm looking forward to see the whole thing. It's the gentleman from a 40-year-old virgin, Steve Carell.
That's right. And I like some of the references. I think everyone that listens to this station would just love it.
Oh, absolutely. And it shows you how civil order would break down. Of course, it would break down because if you're gonna die, so the thing is, we all have spiritual hope. And some of us even harbor, fantasies of immortality, and others have real immortality, certainly the guys in charge. However, the point is that we live as though we're not going to die tomorrow or not going to die in 5 or 10 years' time. That's how we live. If someone tells you, oh, you know what, yeah, the world is going to end next week, next year, in 10 years' time, that gives a certain finite feeling to the whole thing, and it would certainly lead to a lot of unrest because you think, hey, I'm going to die soon. I know when I'm going to die. Nothing I can do. Why am I living in this cage? Why do I go to a job that I hate, pay a mortgage? Why do I do all that?
Yeah, it'd be like stuff the mortgage. I'm not going to work again.
Boom, right?
Yeah.
Immediately everything. And as soon as truck drivers start or stop going to work, train drivers, no food is moved around, utilities break down, guess what? The cities will die very, very quickly.
It sounds like a great segue to the list I've got. But I'm just going to say one thing, just to lead us into the break. I was watching TV today, right before the show, and it's cable, and I saw an ad for a battery, right? Or sorry, a battery, right? Mickey saw it too, apparently. And it's like just an AA battery you would use for a household appliance, or child's toys and things, torches and whatever you have. And they've got made a new brand, and it's still there, the gold and black, but it's got a silver band around it. And the silver band is the different at the differentiation rate. Sorry, differentiator between the two colors. And they say has a 10-year shelf life. All that went through my head right then and there was every prepper is going to go, yeah, they're the ones I need to buy right now.
Yep, absolutely correct.
That was a programming intentional to hit the demo, to the demographic.
And this is really what it is. But having taken our time to talk about 2012, we don't want to forget the spiritual aspect of all of these things. And this is going to come up in the shows in the future. And just again to round it out to the first half of the show, you can prep and you should be prepared and make sure you can live through it. There's some other interesting things we're going to talk about later, but don't forget to be ready spiritually. I know, you're going to cringe and you're going to laugh at me and all that, but the truth is this: it's not just about physical survival. Okay, it is also about the humans. It's about your very personal inner life surviving, not changing into something that you don't want to be.
Hmm.
Civilization breaks down, most people would turn into savages. and you've seen it. Anytime there's a war, there's actually a crime called brigandy. If you're a brigand, you loot and you rape and you just you steal, you wantonly destroy, and this is not civilization ending, but maybe it's a city that's being sacked, or
Yeah.
conquered. So we are savage beasts inside, and I think our biggest job, our biggest challenge, is not to let that savage beast out, no matter what. Is what I think. Sorry, that sounds very somber, doesn't it?
No, 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 no. I think you're right. If you're going to start gnawing on your neighbour's ankle because that was the crunchy bit of meat on the spit,
That's
right?
bitch.
Put your little fingers out. Don't hold it with your hand, right? Maybe use utensils. Think about the things that preserve us as being people, rather than true savages. And I think if we can resort to farming and doing all the things that only 2 generations back, possibly 3, we all did that. Let's just try and do that again,
Yeah.
and build a civilization again.
Oh, and just on that, sorry. It's backbreaking work. Yesterday, I spent 3, 4 digging up roots of trees, and I had like 5. And I'm telling you, I'm spent. My whole body is aching.
Do you know what? Instead of using a chainsaw today, I got my bush saw and a machete to tame some of my garden. And I
Yeah,
thought, you know what? That is actually pretty good.
pretty tiring as well, but you get fit, right?
Well, that's all you're going to have, right? You won't be able to go to the store for fuel.
Yes. No, no. Look again. This is important, guys. But more so than that, we must retain the secret knowledge, which Dave and I will bring to you in the next 4 or 5 shows. The knowledge that in previous ages was passed from master to disciple. Knowledge that most religions have at their core, but has been, I guess, diluted and certainly glossed over, and people are focusing on other things these days. So it's secret knowledge that will give you personal, individual liberation from this cycle of death and destruction, which we are living through. So,
Hey, next time we do it, don't make it a religion. Just make it the way we do things. Don't call it a religion.
and you know what? Nobody's in charge. How's that?
See, that would be awesome. These are great rules, right? Yeah, I think you don't need to have an elected president. I think if you just have a council, that's probably the best way of doing it too. Oh man, I don't know whether they got the brakes in.
I'm happy to keep rolling. So, Dave, rolling. If the music comes on, stay with us. We'll come back after the music. It'll be a short break anyway. But let's keep rolling with where we're going here. So there's we're entering the tinfoil head zone now for certain. There's an explanation. Definitely. Actually, yes, Dave. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about Nostradamus and the Lost Book.
All right, I'm just going to paste this in right before the break starts. I'll paste it into the chat, so while the break's going, you can hear it, or you can look through the images. I'm just going to do it for Mickey as well. There was a book found in all places, believe it or not. They gave us a big whoops, and that was in Rome, in no Rome, it is in Rome, isn't it? Yeah, in the Pope's house, in the storage was this lost book of Nostradamus.
That's priceless.
All right, it's like, oops, sorry, missed out on that one, didn't we? And I think it was illustrated by his son. From what I remember, I saw a documentary on it itself, and their quatrains are actually illustrated. So you have to be very careful. And yes, Vibes in the chat room, I have studied. In fact, I did a direct translation myself from the French of all of Nostradamus's works. It took some time, some 5 years of my idle time, and I wanted to see grammatically how it worked, and what was he really saying. And it's just as confusing as it is now as to when he read it, or sorry, when he wrote it. But it's a hindsight book of prophecy, if that makes any sense to anybody. Would you agree, Mickey?
Look, Tim,
Oh, yay, we have the music. We're going to see you on the other side of the break, guys.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio. We'll be right back after this short break, so stay tuned.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
For a little ride.
Now you can share the topics that drive the discussions of your favorite talk shows with TalkStream Live's topic-driven talk radio.
We gotta talk. Let's take a drive.
List and promote real-time talk radio topics, or post the topics that you want to hear. Hot topics are tweeted and retweeted, and include simple click-to-listen audio links. The future of talk radio is topic-driven talk radio.
That's what I call real drive.
Available now at TalkStreamLive.com.
Revolution Radio.
You don't see it, do you? How close we are to absolute chaos? The sick ones are sitting on their fat asses, eating and drink themselves into a stupor, polluting the world without a second thought while it goes down the toilet. Nobody wants to do the nasty work. You know, the shit that we all just think about. Most good citizens are just along for the ride and then bitch and moan and complain about everything when it doesn't work out. Not me. Get it done.
Revolution Radio, where we do the nasty work. www.freedomslips.com.
Are you getting the complete truth? The dirty truth of what's really happening behind the scenes, from global corporatism and supply-side economics to the end of globalization itself. Suppressed knowledge by corporate America and the mass media. Tune into Revolution Radio here at freedomslips.com, the home of weaponized talk radio, to hear the dirty truth with Rick Trusick. That's every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We will see you there because you don't need to expect us. We're already here. Revolution Radio.
All right. Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
You're still listening to, hopefully, Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. We're part of Revolution Radio. We are halfway through show number 32, talking about 2012. And this is a listener-funded radio station, so please go to freedomslips.com and push the donate button as many times as you can. Right? $1, $2, doesn't matter.
We like the, but prefer the kind that folds.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do pay, we'll keep talking. No, I'm kidding. It's not a ransom show. Oh, do you remember those shows where they used to do that?
Yeah.
The community
fundraising.
I know. If you'd like them to tell the punchline, donate now.
Only $50. No punchline.
And now we can all get some sleep. That's like the worst joke on the planet. Anyway, we just before the music came on, we forgot that's really a place where we say shinysideout.net. That's all I need to say. All right. So where were we? Oh, that's right. I was talking about Nostradamus' book. So look, the Nostradamus book itself, the illustrated version of this, which was found in the Vatican. I remembered.
1994 by Italian journalist Enza Massa.
Absolutely. Now he was actually commissioned and given permission to go through the archive to look for information, which they never had done that before. They never let anyone there. It's triple door locked, and the only person that was allowed to access those vaults was the Vatican astrologer, from what I understand. And anyway, they stumbled upon the book, and it was illustrated, and it didn't really make much sense, but it was discovered to have been Nostradamus' son that illustrated it, and he was illustrating some of the last. This was meant to be the last book in a series of predictions, and it was the end of the world book, right? I'm not going to make any bones about it. That's what it was, and the symbolism in there to describe what things were. I've put the link in the chat. Have a look at it. Every time you see, I think, the wagon wheel, it looks like the ship's wheel for turning it. The helm, the wheel at the helm, like a pirate ship one. The 5 spokes, whatever it is, of the thing is meant to represent the galaxy, and it's pictured repeatedly in each one of the images, and it's the timeline up until we cross the galactic plane on 21st of December 2012. All information points to the conclusion that he knew nothing at the time of us crossing the galactic plane, or the prediction of it. He knew nothing of the Mayan calendar at the time.
Yeah, the Mayans hadn't been wiped out yet, guys, so that was still to come.
Yeah, right. So his predictions were, I think, if you're a believer in Nostradamus, as I am, but it's retrospective prophecies, having read it, you can apply it retrospectively to an event that's occurred and go, oh, yeah, actually that describes that. But trying to work something out in the future is actually pretty complicated.
I would say almost impossible. That's why people get it wrong so often. But don't forget that Michael de Nostradam was a doctor, medical doctor in the first instance, who was trained in the Middle East, in fact, in North Africa, and he did quite a bit of work combating the plague, which was ravaging Europe at the time. In fact, his first family, his wife and children, were killed by the plague. He then remarried and had more children, but he was a scholar, He was a medical man. He was not I guess he was a modern man. The modern a lot of the modern techniques we're using today, which he I guess learned in the Orient. So he wasn't just my point is he wasn't just a seer or a prophet or a person that smoked too much and saw these images in his head. He was certainly a learned man and a wise man of his age. So we should always keep that in mind when we talk about him. Can I take?
I would like you to drive
to the tinfoil head zone. Now this is really a far out theory, and oddly enough, I don't know if you guys have been watching television. You shouldn't; it'll rot your brain. But if you do, the radio more. There is a show called Revolution at the moment, and the show essentially has at its core that all the lights go out, all electronic equipment stops working. Essentially, that's the premise of the show. And then 15 years into the future, what does it look like? Well, apparently we all still have very good hairdressers, and none of our clothes need any mending. So and everybody seems to be very clean. I find that odd and hard to believe, but that's the show. Now, this next component of our show talks about another explanation. We just mentioned that it might be a fiery death that comes to us potentially. And, the various agencies in the world are trying to guard against that. Now, apparently, Sir Edmund Halley, the gentleman that discovered the comet, discovered about 200 years ago an anomaly in space around the stars of the Pleiades. The Pleiades should be familiar to most of us. There's a lot of visitor activity associated with the Pleiades as well. And
the Pleiades, as everyone else says it.
You can pronounce it that way. That's fine. The Pleiades, I like Pleiades, but that's because I'm German. 100 years later, Friedrich Wilhelm Bessel, and you can not pronounce it any other way, confirmed Halley's findings. In 1961, Paul Otto Hesse, again, this is the way it's pronounced, defined and measured this anomaly as well. Apparently, it's an energy ring of incredible size, 760,000 billion miles wide, and it is due to intersect the Earth just about any minute now. He also calculated that this is part of a 26,000-year-long cycle that our solar system goes through. Now, again, this is the tinfoil head zone, guys, right? Shining side out. So I have not been able to verify any of this. I just came across this at a very interesting site, which I will paste into here. Now, what will happen, though? It is expected that once we're into the photon belt, electricity won't function, and there will be 3 to 5 days of total darkness. Now, interestingly enough, I heard that elsewhere as well. On YouTube, there are quite a few talks, documentaries, and whatnot dealing with 2012 and Earth changes and Earth shifts, and they all mentioned the time of darkness for 3 to 5 days, and that we should not be afraid. We won't be able to see, but we just huddle close with the family. With the total failure of electricity, though, public services will fail, communications, telephone, water, power, they're all dependent on electricity. So are gas pumps, public lighting, radio, and TV. So radio, sorry guys, unless you have some generators, and I do not, I don't think Dave and I will be on the air. All indigenous cultures and religions prophesy 3 days of darkness to mark the end of times. That's actually true.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Now, the photon belt is an immense region of space which is radiating intense electromagnetic radiation throughout the visible spectrum and beyond into high-frequency invisible light, I should say, even including some X-ray spectra. But it's quite a pervading wave function there. It is part of a magnetic flow of light throughout the galaxy. Reference has already been made through the to intensity of dangerous radiation entering through the holes in the ozone layer in certain regions of our planet. And
Australia.
that's why you can no longer go to the beach, because you will be fried to a crisp. Anybody from the UK? Guys, it is not cool to get drunk at the beach and then look like a lobster, okay? It'll kill you. And it just seems to be our UK friends that seem to enjoy this particular sport.
And anyone from Norway or Scotland, wrap yourselves in bandages before you go to the beach. That's because we use 30 plus now sunscreen, and now they're selling 50 and 100 plus sunscreen.
You shouldn't, just in case you have some concrete, you'll be fine. Good. Now, apparently, our solar system journeys through the universe in a 26,200-year cycle. Its path crossing what is popularly termed the Milky Way at right angles twice during that period. Remember the galactic ecliptic, the plane of the ecliptic for the galaxy and all that we spoke about earlier? Every 13,000 years or so, therefore, planet Earth comes into a space-time overlap or period of null time, an electromagnetic no zone or energy vacuum, with complete absence of electromagnetic fields and the temporary suspension of the planetary grid system. When the pendulum reaches the destructive pause at the end of its swing, this is one of the results. Okay? This cosmic cloud is called the photon belt, the Milky Way or Monasic ring, and ushers in an era of light, 2,000 years of enlightenment, after a much longer period of literally or biblical darkness. We're now poised to enter this photon belt, and there's nothing we can do to avoid it. It is the end of a cycle. Again, think of the Bucktoon that's coming to an end. Understand it without fearing it. And that was the key message that I took away from YouTube and the general internet information as well, is to not give in to fear. Love, again, you can laugh at me and smirk, seems to be the answer. Do not give in to fear if this should come to pass. If there should be a 3 to 5 day blackout, I mean, literally total blackout, and you see the sunrise on the 4th or maybe the 6th day after that, do not give in to fear in the darkness. Now, as I said, this is the tinfoil hat zone, because I have zero corroborating evidence for this, and I'll be happy to be pulled up on it.
When has that stopped us?
In fact, but think about as well. I mean, there are strange phenomena abounding these days, Dave. Right? There's increased earthquake activity. Certainly. I mean, come on, hundreds of thousands of people have died in recent years, more than ever before.
The only thing that hasn't killed great amounts of population are wars and disease.
In recent years, that's correct.
Yeah, in recent years. That's the only thing that hasn't killed. You know, more people died of, what was it, during World War One? Or during that period of time? It wasn't World War One, it was another thing altogether. It was like the Spanish flu or something, wasn't it?
Spanish flu in 1918, the influenza epidemic, which killed more people than World War One.
Yeah. So we haven't had one of those recently.
Yeah, let's hope it stays that way.
Yeah, completely. I'm with you.
But hey, guys, chances are we will not be that lucky. Interestingly, though, there have been mass deaths recently, and this is something we came across as well, Dave and I. Mm-hmm. Birds dropping from the sky, whales beaching themselves, dolphins beaching themselves, millions of dead fish, turtles that just seem to die. Now, the one common thing, potentially, is that there could be a fluctuation in the Earth's magnetic field, which could lead to these animals maybe not necessarily committing suicide, but certainly being disoriented enough to just die, or to drop from the sky. And I'm not saying there couldn't be other causes. And I mean, certainly the bees are, unless it's been solved, not to my knowledge, Joe, the great bee dying in the world.
I think that that's come and gone. I think bees are coming back again.
But it did happen for no apparent reason. These millions of bees just died. It was called, I think, a hive dysfunction syndrome or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a very strange thing that happened. So all these things are happening. And Dave, in fact, pointed me to a video that showed deer also dying in great numbers. So it could be that, and in fact, a lot of animals navigate by the Earth's magnetic field.
The birds, for instance, have still a little known or understood ability to hook into the Earth's gravity. They also see outside of the spectrum, visible spectrum. They can see ultraviolet light. Mm-hmm. And so when they look into the sky, they see waves emanating from the sun and know where the sun is.
Yep.
Right? But the birds suddenly dropping out of the sky, because they did that on Freeway 90 something or other. I've seen a video 1,000 times now. And they were black starlings that all just fell out of the sky. We ran a commercial in Australia, which was birds doing the same thing, but they weren't dead.
Yes.
Right?
Or how far they fall, that would kill them, so...
Exactly. So this thing with the bird death, if they're brains had sufficient amount of iron in them, or if their mechanism that controls how they fly and where they go is indeed something that is affected by a quick tilt and tilt back of the Earth's magnetic field, they would have been fried.
Yes, absolutely. So something
like an EMP.
Exactly. Like, in fact, this is probably the closest thing that we can relate it to, electromagnetic pulse, which pretty much takes out our electronic gear as well and plays havoc with electronic instruments. So these things are happening. There are strange things happening. Okay, strange things have always happened, but they seem to be happening a lot more now, and they seem to be bigger now. The earthquakes are a lot bigger. The magnitude is a lot bigger. I mean, Krakatoa at the end of the 19th century was massive, but since then we had a lot of earthquakes of that magnitude, and they seem to be happening closer and closer together. Tsunami some years ago, the Christmas tsunami killed hundreds of thousands of people, and since then, you had the Fukushima earthquake, which unfortunately had the nuclear knock-on effect there as well.
But the Fukushima wasn't a single earthquake. There was like more than 1,000 earthquakes of 7 or greater.
And they're still happening.
I know. Yeah, and like New Zealand as well.
Yeah. So look, yeah, coincidence. You're just trying to, string something together doesn't go together. Well, no, not really. If something happens, you go, oh, that's coincidence. If it happens twice, you go, fair enough. If it happens 3 times, well, you should start thinking about it. If it happens dozens and dozens and dozens of times, you got to be an idiot.
It only takes 3 instances of a brain tumor at a particular workplace or department to have a cluster.
Yes. No.
Right? Because 2 of them are random, 3 of them cluster. And that requires more scientific investigation to find out what was actually causing it. Right, Mekhi?
And the military has a rule as well. If something goes wrong once, that's an accident. If something goes wrong twice, that's happenstance. And something goes wrong 3 times, that's enemy action.
Wow.
So that's a rule the military has to judge sabotage and enemy action by. But you really have to be blind. And in fact, someone once said this. You live amongst the people that has eyes but cannot see and ears but cannot hear. And he was nailed to a cross. It's one of my favorite sayings.
I like the one, when I tell my boss after he's a long void of inaction on something, I say, "Are your ears painted on?"
Like that.
I got to question it. I get that email I sent you 3 months ago. How'd you go with that, right? So what is our civilization now? We mentioned this when we were talking about which show was it? Where ancient civilization building big things, right? The amount of infrastructure you need to do large things, have a population of 100,000, 200,000 people, right? To do that in the Mayan days was an awesome achievement. They had farming, shops, they had a whole business going on, right? They had industry, they had, as Tone says it in the bumper, supply side economics, right? I love that quote. Yeah, they had all that stuff going on, and there's no reason why we can't do the same thing if we don't have all of our facilities available to us. I'm not saying I'm talking personally, I'm talking as a nation or as a town or a small community. All right, I'm gonna mention some words, and I want you to listen to these words and think about what you associate with those words right now. This is a word association game, right? So listen to this: disease, contaminated water, no health services, starving, no housing, no employment, no fuel, and no food.
That's New Delhi.
I was thinking that's Africa or Rwanda or something like that. Right? That sounds third world country, doesn't it? All of those things are plastered on the TV and news stories about, the reasons for having to donate money to somebody. Right? This is third world stuff. But guess what? They could be your town during any of the following things that I'm about to mention, right? So I'm just going to give you the headings first, and I think we'll take you through each one of them, right? So, well, I think we counted 11, did we, Mickey, before? We counted 11 different things that can go wrong.
It's a long list, so...
Right? So, Yellowstone National Park, if you're unaware, is the largest supercaldera, which is volcano, on the planet. And it's the thinnest place of the crust. That's the definition of caldera. Magma is boiling up underneath it, and yes, it will pop. The dome or the cone of the basin has. I'm just going to tell you this straight up, just so it's easier. Is rising. There are earthquakes there. They're monitoring it. It has, I think, outside of Los Angeles, it has the most seismic sensors in one location on the planet. So it's absolutely enormous. I'm not going to get to the rest of the causes yet, right? We've got solar flares, we mentioned that. A meteor impact of some kind is another thing. All these things are things that can cause those words to occur in your town. A second, GFC. And I joked, and Mickey joked last week, are we really out of the last one? Since 2008. The crossing of the galactic plane, even though we've talked that down. Heavy mass object, or Nibiru, or whatever it happens to be, it's another one. The New Madrid fault opens up.
True, so no, that's not right.
World War III. Some kind of hideous pandemic or a superbug. And according to, I think it's chapter 13 in the FEMA book, or the Firefighter's Handbook, alien attack. Believe it, it's actually in there. Pole shift, which is coming up. That could be a secondary cause of the galactic plane. We don't know. And connected to either of them, or all of them, or none of them, and maybe on even its own, natural disasters of some kinds, which earthquake, hurricane, megastorms, pandemics. All right. Now, each one of those has their own consequences. So, a supercaldera like Yellowstone, I'll just let you know, how likely is it? Well, it's historically due. They've seen a lot more activity in it. All right. If it was to pop, and when I mean pop, I mean the entire dome go more than 15 miles in the air as a release of energy. The pyroplasty dust, if you're not aware of it, it's like 2,000 to 3,000 degrees, and Pompeii citizens were quite aware of it when it consumed them and caused them to suffocate and burn up in what felt like the hottest oven they've ever experienced. And left their bodies encased in a hollow shell, burnt to dust, right? Only for us to fill up with plaster and show to people who are curious today. The dust would end up covering most of the US to about a depth of 2 feet. 2 feet of pyroplasty dust would collapse your roof. Think about that. Your roof would collapse. No housing. There's the first one. It would black out the sun. Okay, blacking out the sun and giving 2 feet of extra soil, no farming. Crops are destroyed. No roads. You can't clear this stuff. You can't breathe it in. The shape of the particles lacerate your lungs, and you die of asphyxiation pretty quickly, right? Blood's out the nose, the eyes, everything, and you're coughing blood, and pretty much that's the end of it. You need to really cover up. You've seen it in all those countries where you see the big pyroplasty flows and dust clouds and whatever.
Don't quote it. Just tell us exactly how it is.
Okay, I'm not going to hold back. That's actually a pretty hideous way to die. But you wouldn't have anywhere to go. There'd be nowhere to go. You'd have probably a full, 5 days if the atmospheric conditions were good enough to flee anywhere but to stay where you were, right? So anyway, south or north would be awesome. But mostly the entire northern hemisphere would be blacked out for more than more than a week, 2 weeks. The estimations are varied. Depends on how much falls down. But we've seen the the beautiful orange sunsets from the Indonesian volcanoes that goes off in Australia. We get to see these beautiful orange sunsets for months. The planes can't fly in the northern hemisphere when I think when it was the Iceland volcano went off, Mickey.
Correct.
That it shuts down airports. Just basically travels down the toilet, right? Okay, so let's go on to the second one, the solar flare. Now, I love this one because it has some credence behind it. There's credence behind the super caldera, but just when that is going to happen is a mixed bag, right? Oh, sorry, I'm laughing at what UK's just posted. Are you going to, Dave and Meki, are you going to end this show by saying, well, folks, come to the 21...
21st.
Oh, the 21st, you're all doomed.
We're not... Because I don't think that's what... Anyway, keep going.
Yeah. So all I'm going to say is, look, these things these are potential catastrophic scenarios. These are not what's going to happen. Nothing's been predicted to happen exactly by science, right? We love science. We do. We love shiny side out, tinfoil hats, but really, what is it all about? So the solar flares, NASA backs this up by warning all of their people to make sure their families are safe and have enough fuel so they can get to the shelter. What shelter? I don't know where the shelters are. That doesn't make sense. So the employee with the family who's now safely tucked away in this imaginary shelter is safe so they can go to work. For what reason? I'm going to ask you one question. What reason would you need to go to work at NASA if there was no electricity and no food, there was martial law called? Why would you need to go to work at NASA? What, so you can communicate with the Mars rover?
Correct. That is the correct answer, Dave.
It's clearly the correct answer. Obviously, the NASA are predicting some kind of threat from space and it needs to be tracked or whatever it is, right? I don't know. I just think that's a little odd. Leave the people in the space. In fact, we don't even have a space station with our own people anymore, so it doesn't matter, right? Okay, so a solar flare. What can it do to the Earth? The EMP itself, caused by the fluctuating magnetic field of the Earth, can knock out our electrical grids worldwide. It can knock it out just on the side of the planet if the magnetic field is weak enough and the particles get soil bound, right? They hit the ground. Needless to say, everyone would be roasted alive in the gamma rays, which would take us to 2,000 to 3,000 degrees, whatever it was, on whichever Earth side was facing the sun at the time it did its bad stuff, right? So if EMP knocked out the electrical grid, we're looking at 2 years estimated to be, this is by the experts who work in the electrical industry, to be a repower on. So they wouldn't be able to turn on the grid again for about 2 years because they've never cold started it. A power station needs electricity to start. They electrically power the coal-fire generators. They electrically run the pumps to maintain stability of the nuclear material. The rods, the carbon rods are lowered in electrically, not pushed in manually, although the new ones that were made post, I forget the year now, after the new regulations came in, have an automatically gravity release system that will drop the rods in to contain the reaction in the case of a large breach or loss of power. So at least the more modern ones. The Fukushima ones were not at all like that. They were the old GE ones that were being turned off. So I'm going to say after a few weeks, no person would attend work if there was no power. It would only take a few weeks, probably for a couple of days to be honest, right? Why would you go to work? The shops wouldn't have any food. You couldn't get any. Tell me who has cash in the wallet? No one, right? So we'd have no money. Nothing would be in the bank. We couldn't access it. Society would collapse. Okay, so nuclear power facilities would also erupt radiation. Those ones that were aged sufficiently to be not retrofitted, maybe planned shut down, like the Fukushima plant was supposed to be shut down, and it wasn't. Okay, you don't want radiation leaking at the same time you've got some other thing, because this is invisible and you're just going to start dying. You don't really know why. So the last thing you want to do is seal yourself into your house when you've got no air conditioning. That would be really bad. You want to have power on while you can recycle the air in your house. And anyway, so solar radiation, it kills by... I was actually in the 80s witness to the amount of solar radiation from the sun killing plants, and it killed an ivy bank, a bank of ivy, but half of it was in shadow from the building. It was an odd angled shape of the building. At that particular day, after about a week, all the ivy was dead, leaving only what was in shadow to be still alive. Right? I saw this with my own eyes. It's something that it stayed with me all this time. Right, it's 30 years ago, and it was kept quiet. No one mentioned a thing, and there was nothing in the media about it. But certainly, plants everywhere died. And last night on the roundtable I did, the impromptu one, just to add this. There was someone who had a Japanese maple who half of the tree died. That was the side that was exposed to the sun, and the other half was shaded. And it was in the same time period. So that's something to be said. Okay, what happens if a large meteor impacts either the ocean or land? If it's in the ocean, you're going to get, if it's large enough, you're going to get about a 10-mile high wave across the ocean in all directions. Now that's if it plops into the ocean. The most likely event is it'll come screaming in at an angle and probably bring up an even higher wave as it penetrates down to the 2-mile depth or whatever. Right? It doesn't have to go in every direction. And you can try this yourself by throwing something to a pond. There'll be a small one coming back to you if you hit at the right angle, and a really big one will go the other way. It's all equalized. If it plopped directly into it, vertically down, which is really unlikely of an event. But anyway, the large wave would wash up to about the Rockies from the east coast of the US, just giving you some geographic reference to that, if it would plopped into the Atlantic, right? So if it fell in the Atlantic, you'd see a big wave come through, and you'd probably wash everything up like, Fukushima style or Japan style, all the way with debris and everything, all the way up to the base of the Rockies. Then just pull out via the river systems eventually, and you're good to go. You can start again. However, if it was done in other parts of the world, it could repopulate freshwater lakes with salt water. All those big salt flats that you know in California could repopulate as seawater lakes again. That's probably why they're salt lakes at the moment. There's a thought around that. If it was a land impact, the dust cloud could black out the sun for years. Right. I just wanted you to know what these things are, and this is why we take these seriously. But at the moment, there's no evidence to suggest any of them's happening, right? Except for the next one. And yes, DNC, I have seen deep impact. Okay, the land impact itself, it would make farming impossible. Therefore, we get to the starving bit again. An acid rain, because of the composition of the soil going in the air, it poisons all the water, all the fresh water. All right. So we're up to second GFC, and really, I don't think we're out of the last one. We never did recover back to everyone having champagne and driving fast cars. I don't think we did. I never think we made it out. We got clawing up the side of the hole, and I think we're slipping back in. So, hey, listen to these. These are the signs that the GFC is still coming, right? Unemployment is out of control. The government's only employer, if at all. So during the Depression, some of the largest employers in all of the nations during that time were the government. They're the only people with money that can just print money to make whatever they happen. But business will take hold after all that, once you get people fed again. So the hard part is, feeding everyone. You turn into a almost communist nation while you're trying to get that. Now, don't everyone spontaneously burst into flames, right? But if the government's the only one really paying anyone, then think about it. They're giving you everything. So it does sound very much like that. You're going to have tons of looting. There'll be martial law and there'll be rioting. The people won't want the government to keep this going. This is the second GFC, and I heard this on the roundtable before ours. Already, we're hearing the preemptive seeds being planted that if Romney was to get in, or whatever it was, Romney didn't get in, or whatever the story is, that there would be mass rioting throughout the US or the southern states, and maybe they're just trying to dress up this south versus north and split the country into two or something. I have no clue. Okay, crossing the galactic plane. This one excites me because I like the possibility of it being real. I just like it. From a physics point of view, I think this is awesome. Because the magnetic field changes the weather patterns. The Earth's one of weather patterns north and south, so a hurricane will go anti-clockwise or is it clockwise, and ours go anti-clockwise. Likewise, on the other side of the galactic plane, we may see that's the cause of the pole shift, and pole shift being a magnetic pole shift, not a crustal pole shift. We could have, as we pass through, an estimated reversal of the solar wind. As we go through it, it might reverse the sun's solar wind, causing electrical energy build-ups in all the planets with their rotational moons and arcing and sort of things like that, which I think we might have already crossed. The magnetic field flips, that's awesome. It doesn't change very much, except for we might see all the birds fall out of the sky again and have a real hard time about it. We'll also... all the planets would flip magnetic poles as well. So with the galactic plane crossing, we could see an EMP. We don't know. We could see the sun misbehave, suddenly blurt out because it's really quiet right now. Right? Oh, what's Nighthawk saying question mark for? You still with me, Mackie?
I'm here, buddy.
Yeah, cool.
What?
You're just having a snooze.
Waiting for it to be not so depressing, to be honest with you.
Well, no. I'm actually just trying to tell you that I don't see if there's really. It's not doomsday. I'm not telling you it's doomsday.
No.
Okay. I'm just going to tell Nighthawk that it's okay. It was sorted out just in time. Fix it up. All right. Now this is the big one. When we did the research, we found that Nibiru, or a heavy mass object, is the top of the list of the 2012 scenarios. And a large object with an elliptical orbit, if you don't know about it, I don't know where you've been hiding, which passes close to the sun and back out to space again. And it's estimated to have a 3,600-year orbit. Now, NASA have 3 times in the last 40 years have announced that they've found Planet X, and then when you ask them, they go, "Oh, what? So who? What? What do we? What? No, we didn't find anything." Well, we were looking in the other direction. Goodness me, all these messages coming up. Yeah, I know. I had the same thing last time, Mackie. Okay, it's reported to have junk in its tail. And when I'm talking about junk, if you've got a large object, it's going to be trailing stuff like it's a honeymoon's car with the tin cans rattling behind it. That junk is supposedly very, very large. And they estimate in different sizes. If it flicked around the sun and left again, those items would get flung off, possibly. If we wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of those. It could account for all the moon impacts from there's greater ones from the south than anything else. Who knows? I think if you were to clutch at straws, this is the one that we should be able to see. We're 2 months out, and we should be able to see something, if anything. And anyway, but it could bombard the inner planets with junk. It could explain Earth not being in a perfect circular orbit it's in elliptical orbit. And maybe it takes 3,600 years to relax and get closer to a circular orbit, and then suddenly gets affected by it. All of the things that I've seen to do with this are all models done in beautiful programs, and they show that if an object was coming in at any rate of knots on the plane, the galactic plane, it would just throw everything around. But if it came up from underneath, you'd have the highest likelihood of the planets surviving their orbits. But some would cross, and it may not be pretty, right? Depending on where you were. But if in fact it was 3,600 years old, that means it's gone round more than 10 million times in its orbit since the Earth's been here, and we're not dead. Yeah. So it's just to be said, right? What else? Oh yes, it could also explain Venus slowing. We've noticed that Venus slowed down. It could explain each planet with an atmosphere increasing by 2 degrees in the solar system if we had something large coming through, and it could increase the earthquakes, which we've also seen. So the people who are on board with Nibiru and the Heavy Mass Object have some information that these are all the things that gives it a tick in a tick box. Doesn't mean it's happening, and but I still reckon you should always have 3 weeks minimum of food in your house and supplies, and don't necessarily arm up, but just be prepared. You should always do that anyway. And learn how to farm and buy books from Amazon if you have to, right? On how to farm and when to farm. I think that's really important. The new Madrid fault line opens up. That's another one of the 2012 scenarios. It could be caused by anything. Maybe it could be caused by the super caldera, maybe it's caused by Nibiru, who knows, but it's been suggested even by geologists that it's a possibility. It seems like it has more activity than it's ever had. Well, so does every other fault line, but it's been recently discovered to be real, and anyway, it's there. It's just one of those items. World War III. Well, we keep staring down the barrel of a World War III incident. It's one of those things that when you talk to anyone who's an educated person, mutually assured destruction means that everyone would step away from having an actual war about anything real with any major power, because that would just be silly. All you're going to do is wipe yourselves out, and everyone else left on the planet is going to have a heyday. Right? Woohoo! The witch is dead. And I think that's hilarious.
Like I said, when you speak, I can't. I don't think I can speak across. I don't think I can be heard. Is that correct?
Well, you can. I'm hearing you now.
Excellent, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Don't feel depressed. We're just listing scenarios here that could happen. Okay, these are potential things you could potentially prep for. Okay, so but
these were all the things that came up when 2012. When you search for 2012, each one of these things come up. It might be 10 pages down, but they were all connected with 2012 as being something. It's the end of the world. So you type end of the world or 2012, and you're going to come across every one of these things as being possible, right? And so World War III would be China, Russia, Iran, North Korea versus the rest of everyone. Iran has just, made drones that can travel 2,000 kilometers. Yay, good for you. You've discovered technology, right? The only reason Iran wants nukes is so that they'll get left alone, right? Russia and China ramps up defenses in Iran. That's happened. That was recent news. China increases spending in Mexico alliance. I've been watching those news as well. China base in Mexico. It looks like it. Military base, although one person who delivered something says there was thousands of vehicles down there. Still to be verified. I'd pay for me to go on a holiday down there and I'll check it out for you. Australia is purchasing US and UK troops, and the USA is populating bases throughout the West Pacific to Indian Ocean. These are, ruffling of feathers and bolstering of your jurisdiction, I suppose, that is putting their police forces in place, right? It doesn't mean something's going to happen. I can't say it is, so this is all I can provide you. And pandemics. Now, about 3 years ago, we had the bird flu, or worse. West Nile virus is still ramping up every season. or I call it the zombie virus, because if you have West Nile virus and it's a brain and muscular virus, meningitis or syphilitis, encephalitis, sorry, not syphilitis, that the result is going to be some kind of impediment physically and mental impediment as well. And if you add hunger, you get a zombie virus. A pandemic of any kind will kill millions each day. That is what a pandemic is. They're usually unstoppable. They'll just stop because they'll finish their source. It won't be stopped because we've found a cure. Usually that causes the nation to shut down. You'd be lucky if martial law wasn't called and curfews would be applied in all situations. They wouldn't want people getting out and doing things. If you're lucky, they'd be dumping food at your door, right? And so people wouldn't have contact with it. As long as you can keep away from the germ, you're going to be right. Alien attack, chapter 13. Unseen attack from space, and people go underground.
False flag as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now this is the other one. It's already been talked up that there's, the military has holograms, and even the TR-33B, which is the black triangle ship with the 3 white lights, one on each corner and the large orange center or red center. They could, if they're flying these things, they could just pretend to be aliens, and we wouldn't have a clue. We'd know no different. So it's completely possible that could happen as well. We got pole shift. We talked about that. It could be caused by anything really. The pole shift could be a galactic plane. Just the sun flips. Maybe it's our turn to flip. Who knows? It could be just that the inside of the crust is magnetized enough for it to cause its own magnetic flip over in the liquid metal core. Right? It can't be that bad. Except that if it did do something, we could see lots of animal life lost, brains fried, those kind of things, well by EMP. But the real big ones, the ones that we are seeing that are ramping up on their own without any external, from what we can see, interaction, is earthquakes, hurricanes, maybe even a megastorm or a pandemic. These are natural disasters, still classified that way.
The thing is this, guys, we have seen these mass extinction events in the past. We have these boneyards of millions of animals, hundreds of thousands of animals in Siberia and the permafrost, frozen still with flowers in their mouth and their stomachs. So we do know that these mass extinction level events do happen. We don't always know how or why. We know that the climate changes dramatically within minutes to freeze them that quickly. So again, bear in mind, not saying that this will happen, but what Dave has just listed, which is a terribly depressing list.
No, do you know what? It isn't. That's the thing is, don't look at it like it's all bad. It's all going to happen. Mm-hmm. I could point at some of these things and say they've already happened. They've happened in the past. We've had natural disasters. We've already had pole shifts. Alien attack, maybe not. I can't prove that that's happened. We've had pandemics. We've had 2 world wars. The New Madrid fault line has cracked and moved, but we've had other fault lines move. The Sumerians talked about Nibiru. Whether it's a planet or not, we don't know. We've crossed the galactic plane before. There's been other depressions, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going backwards in time. Meteors have hit the planet. There have been solar flares, and the super caldera has gone off. These are all things that have happened in the past. I'm not making it up. I'm not saying, Australia's going to levitate off the globe and go and crush some other country.
Really? When?
Because that would be awesome if it did. But
Dave?
That's my prediction. No, I'm kidding. I'm not saying things that are impossible. But, just remember those things. Remember that people, if any of these things happen, people will be displaced. Right? Now, England just passed a bill to say that if the EU fell over, they're going to close their borders to refugees. Mm-hmm. Right? What else displaces people? Pandemics, wars, right? Natural disasters. All of these things displace people. And where can you go? Well, you just have to make life somewhere else. You get displaced. Well, if you had your bug-out bag and you had your tent, you're good to go. Just wherever you can be.
Get out of the cities, though. I would say get out of the cities. The cities will self-destruct. I can guarantee it. We've seen it in the past when civilizations fell before. The cities are the worst place to be, guys. If it comes down to the wire.
Just know of some place you can set up a farm and just be happy. Just know of a place that does that, right?
I mean, nobody else knows about that place, though.
No, it doesn't matter. You want to form communities. You want to be nice. You want to be honest. You want to be the people you want to start the nation with again. Yeah.
So we've got another few minutes left here. So I think the biggest takeaway is 2012 may or may not be a significant event, and it may or may not have something happen that we have listed here, and then Dave has got an exhaustive list of things that could potentially go wrong. Key thing here is this: don't focus on that. Don't focus on the negative. Be prepared, 100%. Be prepared physically and be prepared spiritually. Be prepared on every level that you can, because if your spirits aren't up, if your mindset isn't right, there's no point in surviving, I think. And ask yourself also what it means in the larger scheme of things. It is just the change of a cycle. We're finishing a cycle, we're starting a new cycle. That's great. Could there be catastrophe? Sure. And maybe that's how the Mayans constructed the calendar. So the Baktuns would alert us to the fact that, hey, something bad is coming your way, or something earth-shattering is coming your way. That could very well be it. But be mindful that take good care of yourselves in any which way. Okay. It's important to realize survival is one thing. Surviving well and with your human dignity intact is much more important. I'll be honest with you. I'd rather perish than live in a Mad Max type world, trying to claw my way to the top, or just for the next crumb to eat.
That's really funny. That's really funny. I've got a lot of friends that say exactly the same thing. They say, you know what? I'd like to die in the first wave. It doesn't matter as long as I'm drunk.
It's a quality of life thing as well. Of course, we can build a better world, and I'm hoping that's true. And we've got a few news items which I don't think we have time for. They're funny, though, because we'll just give you a brief rundown what they are. In Mexico City, which happens to be, part of the ancient Mayan, well, not really, but it's sort of in the same area, country, they have held a conference. I think it was the beginning of the year, where they got all kinds of experts together, and they were debating 2012, and nothing is going to happen, and when the Baktun ends, then nothing. It's just another cycle, blah blah blah. But it was important enough to invite all these scientists and other people to have a conference over. Okay, so that's very important. And secondly, in Mexico City, there's an ad agency which has prepared an end of the world survival kit, just in case, and we're gonna add that to the show notes. It's actually really funny. It's a bit of water in there. It's got a bit of chocolate with tequila, I think. So it's got everything that you need to survive in an end time event. The key is, look, Dave, I think you agree. 2012, I think December 21 will come and go, and my gut tells me we'll see December 22 and December 23.
25th.
Go on.
The 25th, that's Christmas. That would be really nice if we were able to celebrate Christmas. All I'm saying is all those things that I mentioned, I forgot to mention this, and that is they can't be predicted.
Yes. In hindsight, though, you'll all say, "Oh, Dave and Mac, you're right," and we'll ask you, "What did we write about? what prediction did we make that came
Shotgun
to pass?"
approach. It was all of them.
The thing with predictions and prophecy. Afterwards, hindsight is 2020.
So Nibiru turned up, the aliens jumped off, caused natural disasters, a pandemic, martial law was called, we had famine. It's awesome.
Yes.
Did I miss one? Hurricane, superstorm, large caldera. Yep. Don't live your life worrying about stuff. Just be prepared. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yep.
That's the only way to do it.
That's it. That's the only way to do it. It's the only way to live life. Live life as though there is no tomorrow. In fact, someone in the chat just said, "Tomorrow never comes." It's true. Don't put things off. Grab the person you love, hug them, spend time with them. Go fishing. You want to go fishing? Go fishing. Drink that beer.
Because tomorrow is today.
Yeah.
When you get to tomorrow, it's today.
Yeah.
So live your life.
Yeah, at DNC, yes, I do believe we will see 2013. Dave and I are working on the Fibonacci sequence awareness cascade formula, and we believe once the human population, I think it's 7.7 billion or 8 billion, at that point or before that point is reached, we will see a massive depopulation event.
There we go. We've hit the end of another Shiny Sat Out with Dave and Meki. We'll see you in show 24.